Look, we're live, fellas. Welcome, America, to the best hour of your day, assuming that your day is very, very mediocre. This is the Eric and Rodney Show with Robin. This is the show where we pursue fame on LinkedIn until we get famous enough where one of us is going to die of a Percocet addiction, Robin. The other two of us
That's new.
could die in a plane crash on the way to Epstein's Island because we are liberal Democrats. And according to Tucker Carlson, we're all pedophiles. Guess who just dropped the show yesterday? Tucker. But listen, we're going to get there shortly. Today we have Chris Bogue on the show. He makes, and I'm not going to screw this up, mercifully short video content that drives revenue. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on?
Welcome, Chris.
Not much. Happy Indictment Day, everybody. Robin's very excited about Indictment Day. He lives in the Philippines.
He's got his show on.
I don't,
Yeah.
I didn't get
Otherwise
to
known as
anything.
Friday.
you didn't get your indictment prize?
No, I didn't do anything. I didn't plan anything for Indictment Day.
Yeah, this goes back to everything Chris Rock has ever said. He's our sagest prophet. But it's like the OJ thing. I think he was like, black people too happy, white people too mad. No one's getting an OJ prize. Like, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but this isn't going to change anything. You know what I mean? The ideology's out there. You can knock off the head, but they're a hydra, you know?
Yeah, I don't really talk about politics because I just kind of view it as entertainment at this point. It all just seems like it's a narrative, and it's like, okay, I had this eureka moment where I'm like, oh, I could literally just not watch the news, go do other stuff, and then just show up the day of voting to vote.
Right.
And like literally nothing would be different. Like all the outrage I throw out there,
I know.
just nothing.
Yeah, it's theater of the absurd. Like, it is absolutely fucking absurd. But once you start having to talk about it, you get riled up again. I used to be blissfully ignorant. It was the greatest thing in my life. Then I started doing this shit.
Oh, they would love me too. Once politicians realize how awesome this video shit is for fundraising, they're going to be knocking at my door, and I don't know if I'm going to want to do that.
No, you definitely listen.
It's like there's two groups. There's politicians and there's multi-level marketing schemes, and I'm like, oh shit, both of these camps would love me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do that. You know?
Yes, you do. Listen, we're all capitalists. You got to sell your soul.
Maybe you could combine the two of them.
Sells his soul? I mean, you're not principled, are you?
Well, I mean, it's called Chris Sells His Soul because I sold out. You know, like I'm out here making money. That I am very explicit with my audience.
Yeah.
That the only reason I'm doing anything remotely fun on LinkedIn is because I want their money.
Why do you think we're here?
Yeah, I'll scream at them. They'll be like, LinkedIn is for adding value. I'm like, no, I want you to buy my shit. It's really good.
LinkedIn is a high school without any cool kids. It's a bunch of dorks doing dorky things in a dorky way. Except for some of us, we're cool.
I've never been cool. That's why I'm here.
No.
I'm fucking lame. Like, that's why I love LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, great. This is a bunch of tryhards.
Yeah.
They're all awkward. You know, like nobody has any friends. Like, this place is great for me.
No, I love this show.
Oh shit! Oh,
That's right. Don't hold back.
All right, listen. I know you don't like talking politics, but there is news today.
I am here. Yeah, I guess it's Indictment Day. I guess I can't escape it.
It is Indictment Day, so generally,
no one is safe.
No one's safe. The first half of the show, we talk a little newsy news, and then we go into the interview portion of the morning.
We go into the Chris hour.
Robin, what's in the news?
Robin's got his show on.
So this is by far the biggest news story we've had on the show. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 7 counts. And this is actually historical because this is the first time a former president has faced federal charges. So the charges are espionage, obstruction of justice, falsification of records, conspiracy, and false statements.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm shocked.
This doesn't sound right.
How could that? Doesn't sound like Donald Trump.
No, not at all. It's very against his character. Do you have anything else before we lay into our former president?
No,
that was
I'm
it.
shocked.
I'm gonna tell you, I was all excited for the memes. I think this is probably the best one, but I was a little disappointed this morning. I think the internet could have done better, although this is pretty funny. 34 counts. Is non-espionage punishable by death? Can we hang this guy? Do we know?
If you're Donald Trump, he just gets away with it.
Well, I also read if he's completely convicted, it's 75 years, and he's 75, right? So.
But like, this is the thing, and people don't actually. I'm gonna like this is a little secret. I'll only let your show in on. But like, I actually just took a bunch of notes on what Donald Trump was doing during his presidency.
Yeah.
And I just kind of use it to my advantage. So I see what he does is he just creates a situation where he can like influence the people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they just let him get away with stuff. And they're like, oh, well, this is 7 counts of indictment. But like, come on, guys, it's Trump. Like, just let him go.
Well, that's the thing, is it's not going to change anything because his audience doesn't give a fuck what he does. So he can do whatever he wants to do, and just they like this. They like that he stole shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not necessarily judging.
He was the first presidential candidate who was a reality television producer. And I don't think people pick up on that. I'm like, look at what this guy is doing. He's like stage directing every moment like it's a reality TV show.
And it's working.
And he's playing that reality TV show character, the agent of chaos who comes in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's brilliant. Because like it worked. No one's expecting it, you know?
He muddies the shit out of the waters where like, so he did an interview with Hannity where he essentially admitted to stealing the documents. Hannity tries to steer him away from that. Then he goes, well, like a wizard, I just declassified them. That's what a president can do, which is absolutely not true. But he's got him on camera admitting that he stole all this shit. They showed up to Mar-a-Lago, found all the shit. He's getting indicted, and then half the country's like, this is an abomination. Is it abomination because rich white men are being held accountable for their crimes? I mean,
I have a bigger question, though, that I've always wondered, is that why in the world is the United States government writing very important things down and giving them to him?
Well, even why are we?
They're like, can't find the nuclear codes. They must be at Don's house, or is it at Vince's house?
Why are there secrets in boxes?
Maybe we store them somewhere else.
But it's because he was president, you know? And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, man, you know what? He got me, you know, I'm not president. Like, I didn't think he'd be able to do it. And I'm like, shit, he's been president more than I have. So like, I guess I got to give him this one, you know? And like, I look at it, I'm like, oh shit, if I stole a classified document, I would be like in solitary confinement, like locked away forever. But I'm like, I guess he's doing it again. Like, I'm sick of this show. So I'm just going to watch something else until the news changes.
That's what bothers me too, is fucking stupid and orange and fat as he is. He's exponentially more successful, rich, and famous than I am. So what does that say about me?
Do you think it's going to be another case of like Donald Trump's too rich to go to jail? Or it's going to be like there are richer people that want him to be in jail?
I think 34 counts.
Robin is learning.
I'm asking good questions.
Robin is learning.
Well, okay.
He might get away with it. I don't fucking know. Nothing surprises me.
No.
The way things are headed, I would say this is the most likely what will happen. He will become the president again, pardon himself, and from there it's anyone's guess. That's his. I mean, that's his. Like that could potentially happen. As crazy as things are, right?
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I'm bad at predicting the future. I don't like to predict it. I will say, I thought like his compelling message in 2016 was like, hey, I'm going to talk about the forgotten man. I'm going to talk about immigration and trade. And I'm going to call out, you know, how fake both sides are. And like, there's a lot of compelling stuff for like the average voter. This new campaign is just like, I'm going to jail, so I got to get revenge. And I'm like, I don't think that has quite the same crossover appeal, but like, hey, I'm just some idiot. So who knows?
Yeah, it is good because it is fragmenting the Republican Party. I mean, it's good from our side because I don't think a lot of people on that side, like they're realizing Trump is bad for the brand, but only half of them. So it is splitting. So you would think that we'd ease right in, but what we have is a 150-year-old candidate incumbent who keeps falling down and saying dumb shit. So listen, neither side's great.
Well, I like Biden because I don't have to hear about him ever. He just like goes and does president stuff, you know? And I'm like, that's actually the kind of president I like, where like, they're not a reality TV show character waging a culture war every day. Like it's actually nice to be able to ignore the politicians. They're not like, that's how this is supposed to work, right? We're all supposed to like elect people to go govern the country intelligently so we can go work on other things. Like we shouldn't have to be like weighing in on every single like minute detail of every culture war issue every day. Yeah, but that's how it is. But at some point, I'm just like, oh, this is dumb. I can just stop watching this and nothing will change about my life.
Right. They should just quietly do their job well, and we should all move on with our lives. Right.
But yeah, but it's like social media doesn't work that way. You have like being obnoxious is how you win that game. and
Yeah.
like the dude was a reality TV star and he was in like pro wrestling.
He's a WWE Hall
He
of Famer.
knows how to
I might
piss
add.
people
Yeah,
off,
yeah.
and if you can do that, you can always get the news cycle. And that's why I'm looking at him strategically and trying to figure out what the game theory is. And I think his opponents are hoping that he goes to jail, so they'll just be like, "Oh, gotta vote for me now." And I'm like, it's not going to end when he goes to jail. He's going to keep making news, and like either you break away from him or like he's still in charge. And like I actually think it's going to be to the point where like if Trump's the guy, he's going to run on pardoning Trump. If Trump's not the guy, all the other guys are going to have to run on pardoning Trump too. If you pardon him, he's going to be back and he's going to be doing media. He's going to be running the party still. So I kind of look at it like, yeah, no matter who you vote for on the right, you're going to get Trump again, or you vote for Biden and, if you like that, that's fine. If you don't like that, like whatever, just
I think that okay, but as soon as somebody else gets elected president from the Republican side, why would you pardon a guy that's going to take your job or who's in like I'd keep him in jail. If I'm DeSantis and I win, why do I want daddy coming to home like, yo, you fucking rot? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, if I was DeSantis, I would be running against Donald Trump. I don't know what the guy's doing, trying to be like, I love Trump so much. Like, I'm like, dude, this is your opponent. He's calling you terrible things,
Exactly.
like
So I'm not pardoning that guy.
Yeah, but again, like I don't know, politics is just like a cesspool, and it's like, and again, it was kind of like informative for me because I watched Trump do his thing, and I'm like, oh, the rules there aren't really a whole lot of rules in this country. Turns out, if you're like in the governing class and you're connected to the people who have to like make judgments on that, and this is what I'm trying to teach people is like the biggest decisions in history get made in small rooms. And he's very good at getting into one of those small rooms and bending people towards his will. Yeah. And I'm like, you guys, that's how influence works. It's not the millions of followers you get on TikTok or whatever. It's like, can you get in a room with a small handful of people who are going to decide the outcome and influence them, and that's what he's very good at.
And speaking of game theory, I think the guy who's doing the best job right now of what you're alluding to is Tucker Carlson. I hate the guy, but holy shit, if you watch this man's Twitter show,
I have not.
Unfucking.
They had a graph the other day, right? Listen to this. They had a graph the other day because we were talking about Eric. I saw it yesterday on Twitter. Yeah. Of all of the shows, right? I don't know who this guy is, but there's a guy, I guess, on Fox named Greg Gutfeld or something. I don't know. Somebody. He apparently was filling in for Tucker's hour or whatever it is now. Yeah. And it had like 1.5% of the market or whatever.
1.5 million viewers probably.
It was something, right? On whatever it was, right? And Tucker was like over 100 million.
He's got Tucker's got 110 million views on
Twitter. And it was what, 10 minutes, 11 minutes?
Now it's actually close to 200 million.
Well, right. But I'm saying, right, as of compared to Fox, with that, whoever that guy is was hosting his hour or whatever Tucker had, got 1.5 million. It was 1 million something, right? People tuned in. And Tucker got how many now? 200 million views?
Close to it, yeah.
But
I think cable should be worried about Twitter.
That shit crazy. It's like it's beautiful in its ridiculousness. Everyone should watch this. But here's the thing: everyone should not watch this. He just says the craziest shit in the world, and half the country is like, absolutely. So one of the things he says, we talked about this before, but he says Kyle Rittenhouse. So he killed a guy who ended up being a pedophile. He goes, oh, so what are we doing? Prosecuting people that kill pedophiles now? Is that what you want? The left? It's like, he didn't know. Holy shit. You're not allowed to just carry a gun and shoot people and hope they're pedophiles. If they are, like, that's fine. You're a hero. You're an American.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. That's the thing that I think liberals don't realize is that, like, you don't get points for having the correct answer. Exactly. Like, you get points for winning. Yes. And for convincing people to your side. And it's like, I wished people Googled shit because I make a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, I hope someone Googles me and they find all my creative content. They don't. Yeah. They don't Google anything, And actually, I should actually make a post about this sometime. I actually like looked through my analytics and some of my highest performing posts where I was just wrong about something where I'm like, hey, did you know that this thing doesn't do that? And then like, I get a bunch of comments and someone's just like, oh no, you click this button here. That feature is totally here in LinkedIn. But like that post blows up because I was just wrong. Yeah. And you get the combination of people who are like, wait, that sounds wrong. And then you get the people who are like, oh, wow, I'm like, God, I guess I didn't realize this was wrong. But and then you get the people who are commenting, giving extra engagement, being like, no, idiot, like, look, you're looking in the wrong spot. It's right here.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it actually doesn't matter if what you're saying is factually true or not. Like, we are a storytelling creature, and people vote for the story they find is compelling, not like they're not doing fact checks like it's 5th grade and you're trying to get an A. Like, no one gives you an A for being right. They give you an A for like winning people over to your side. And unfortunately, like, you can do that with dishonesty.
Well, his last episode, he railed against Zelensky because there's a war on Christianity in the Ukraine, right? So then you look into it. He goes, no, he just shut down one Russian Orthodox church that was giving money to Russia and trying to convince Ukrainians to join the Russian side. So kicking out a Russian church when you're at war with Russia is not a war on Christianity. But Tucker Carlson says it is. So half the country's like, Zelensky hates Christians. I'm a Christian. I think the Russians have a point. And is it really half the country, though? You know, that I think. So what I think I learned during the Trump era was not that both sides are totally intractable and like incapable of listening to reason. I actually think the Trump years taught me that people are more flexible in their ideological beliefs than I realized. Like, maybe there is a segment of people that are hardened and they're only going to listen to one side. But I was actually pretty impressed by the way Trump kind of just like eviscerated a lot of the sacred cows at the time, where he's just like, the Iraq war was stupid. Like, fuck George Bush. Like, he was saying these things you couldn't really say before. And I thought it was interesting that like he was appealing to Bernie Sanders supporters, and there was a little bit of support there. And like, he was appealing to people in unions, and he was appealing to to me, I just looked at that and I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, it's really not that people are set on a certain set of facts or whatever. Like, the difference between choosing good or choosing evil is kind of up to like, do they like watching you on TV? Yeah. You know? And I mean, we get this entertaining. Yeah. And we can get to this like later in the show, but it's like, I was very inspired by a political study to start my own business, because they were studying swing ads. They were figuring out what changes a swing voter's mind. And they found that it doesn't matter if it's a Trump voter or a Biden voter. The people who voted for one party in 2016 and switched their vote were most swayed by ads that were just a person talking to the camera. If it was too overproduced, if it was too many celebrities, too official looking, people didn't trust it. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's this very DIY quality to what he's doing. Where a lot of it is real slapdash, and they just throw on a camera and he just kind of rants about whatever. But like, that's why people trust it, you know? And I think the things that he is doing are actually like, he's doing a lot that people aren't talking about. And his campaign did a lot of things that I feel I took notes on that like nobody in the political class did. But I actually think the performance and the way he's performing is what a lot of people are responding to, rather than the ideological facts of the case, which are often just like, you know, fucking nonsense that like some story they spun up because it's a good media story. Well, if low production value equals success, this show is going to be fucking huge.
I was going to say, like, where's the Oscar or the Emmy, right? And then the other thing is that I mean, I'm no design expert, but Tucker doesn't look like it's heavily produced.
No, he's taking some notes. It's him in his garage with a ring light.
I mean, it used to be like, I remember it would come on, it was like breaking news, and didn't he used to wear a bow tie?
Yeah, until Jon Stewart eviscerated him for wearing a bow tie, then he stopped. Jon Stewart's our only hope.
Wasn't that a sign though? Wasn't that a sign to us all, the bow tie?
Oh, I don't know.
That something was wrong with him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, some dudes wear bow ties. You know,
I don't know.
Like, I mean, you know, you got to be certain. I mean, I'm like a comedian, so you know, it's like I'm always looking at like different types of people and like what kind of energy does this person give the camera? Yeah, you know. And I say my thing about Trump is like, you have to realize he is playing a type of clown that has been around for a lot longer than Donald Trump. Right? There's a type of clown that is like angry and wears a baggy suit and a big tie and is vulgar and says inappropriate things and is always angry. And that type of clown has been around since people have been performing. It's always been with us, you know? So I'm like, maybe people just enjoy that type of clowning. Like, maybe that type of clowning is what people want in, to juxtapose against CNN or whatever this type of thing is. And like, yeah, I don't think it really ends with Trump. And I think too, if you're, whether you're a liberal or a conservative, I think anyone can kind of play that role of a clown. And, my criticism of liberals too is I think liberal comedy at some point just stopped being funny. And like, it started turning into a sermon or a lecture, and it needs to have something kind of dangerous about it.
That's my issue with like woke's not funny. And again, I'm very liberal if people haven't, but like Bill Maher, for example, stopped being funny in totality because all he wants to do is rant at you about how whatever you are. And that's the danger. And I know you had a video about, you had some guy on like how to make light of difficult subjects. There should be no sacred cows in comedy. There cannot be, because then we can't on the one hand worship Lenny Bruce and Richard Pryor and George Carlin and then become what we are now, which is you can't say anything. Jerry Seinfeld's bitching about not being able to do colleges. Jerry Seinfeld, the cleanest among us, has had enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really worry about. I mean, my whole thing is like the cancellation and I don't think comedians should be our moral leaders. I think at some point we started wanting comedians to be the moral authority. And it's like, that's not what comedians are for. Comedy always exists in this gray area between like what you're supposed to say and what you actually say, what you're supposed to feel and what you actually feel. So it's like, I don't think comedians are supposed to be our moral leaders, but I think a lot of the anger that happens from both sides, it comes when if it feels like somebody is on the outside judging you because they don't know you, that's when people get pissed off. And it's like, I have written comedy with liberals. I've written comedy with conservatives. I have written comedy with gay people and trans people and black people and people who don't look like me. Yeah. And the thing that would always happen in those writers' rooms is somebody would propose a sketch. And, like it'd be like somebody who's like a black writer or something, and they'd write their sketch. And I'm like, oh, we can make fun of this? And he's like, oh yeah, this is bullshit. We can have a lot of fun with this, but it's like, and then on the flip side, there were times where I would bring in a sketch and we would read it and they're like, okay, let me calmly explain to you why I hope you never write another character like this again, and the fact that those conversations happened in a small room where we were all on the same team and we wanted to help each other win and we wanted to put on a good show. There was a lot more room for empathy and understanding and growth. It's when it's on this national stage and everybody just wants to attack you to get their points in for the day. That's when nobody's actually talking to each other. But actually, if you write with people that are different from you, that's where you learn a little bit. And you also learn that, hey, there's these boundaries that we think are here. They're actually... You can step a little bit outside them and the audience is still going to laugh because it's not coming from a place of hatred. It's coming from a place of understanding.
Yeah. I just think, so you think about comedians being like our moral leaders. I don't think they were ever meant to, and I don't think they wanted to. I think we ran out of things to get mad about. So then we were like, hey, did you hear what Dave Chappelle said? Because life is way too fucking comfortable for all of us. So we have to get mad at comedians. That's how far it's fallen. So I don't think they volunteered. And I don't think that, I just think people like being upset about stupid shit.
I mean, my example of like it being too serious is like Kate McKinnon playing Hallelujah on Saturday Night Live and just being like, I'm not gonna get like that. That isn't like, or even like, Alec Baldwin's Trump. I don't like Alec Baldwin's Trump impression as much as I like the current guy.
Oh, the current guy is so good.
The current guy is good because again, it's like if Alec Baldwin's one, they're just trying to like hammer home this point of like what a terrible guy he is.
Yeah,
but this new guy is like, he's got the clownishness down and he's got the mannerisms down. He's got the cadence of voice down. He found what's funny about Trump.
Right.
And that's what the sketch is,
Yeah.
And it's
Alec Baldwin's, as much as I hate Trump, it's just mean. It's just vitriolic. It's no, like, the comedy isn't there. The impression's not that good. It's just like, yeah, he's an idiot. I get he's an idiot. But it's like kind of funny too,
Yeah. I mean, like that, there's... he's done things where I'm like, it's so stupid that like this horrible thing is happening and it's funny, like the two things can be true at the same time. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I just like, I got to a point, and I say this too, because I was writing shows, in the 2010s, I was writing shows at Chicago's Second City, and I was trying to be Mr., edgy satirist. And it just didn't work for me. Like I realized that as a comic actor, my favorite comedians growing up were Chris Farley and John Candy and like these guys that had like a sweetness about them. You know, like John Candy always reminded me, like, I wish John Candy was my uncle growing up, because he was just a really sweet guy.
Uncle Buck.
Yeah, Uncle Buck. He was great. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm like, this is, I'm going out there and doing the edgy, like trying to be the Daily Show kind of thing, because like that's what was popular at the time. But I'm like, this actually feels like me going on a political rant and not doing comedy, you know? And you know, and again, this is not to say like I think comedians shouldn't voice their opinion. I absolutely think everybody should, but it's like you just going up on stage and saying your political opinions is not a comedy act. Like a comedy act
still
still
wrapped in jokes, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, why Rock and Chappelle are masters at that, and I don't think anybody else does it particularly well. Jon Stewart does. Okay, I think those are the.
I love Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is one of my heroes, because he was a Second City Chicago guy, and you know, I always say Donald Trump and Stephen Colbert are the guys I took a lot of notes on, because Colbert was able to do the like, I'm just going to be a character hosting a TV show thing, and Donald Trump is one of the greatest improvisers in American history. Whenever anybody's like, "Oh, look at this! What's his plan?" I'm like, he's fucking improvising. Why can't you see that? He's playing the room. He's getting into a room that's sympathetic to him. He's figuring out, like, when a word or a phrase takes off, he plays into it. I'm like, this man is improvising.
It's like an idiot savant. Can I just say one before we move on? This is the funniest thing Tucker Carlson said is, and I don't know if this might be true, but he said that now liberals want to call pedophiles minor attracted persons. In liberals like my pedophiles because they're a sexual minority. Because we love all minorities.
Yeah, it's like, again, I just think that's ridiculousness, you know, and like,
right.
I don't know. It's this is what politicians do. They change the meanings of words.
Yeah.
You know, but they're like, oh, this is pornography. I'm like, under your definition, like, Bugs Bunny cartoons are pornography.
Yeah.
Like SpongeBob is pornography.
Definitions of words. He goes on a whole rant. He's like, what is white supremacy? He goes, if you're a white parent and you love your child, is that white supremacy? As if white supremacy doesn't have a definition. Tucker Carlson is always confused about the world. So what is white supremacy? I think we know. I think we've known for a long time. All you can do is maybe read a book, Google something. It's not loving your white children.
He's got to fill 11 minutes. Do you know what I don't understand though? Is the first show was 10 minutes. This one was 11 minutes. Am I just foreshadowing here that it's going to be 12?
I think it's something that's going to be back 13. On network today.
I mean, that's how internet shows go. You're like, God, we're supposed to cut it, but it's so fun. Let's just keep going for.
You know who should have a political show? You know who should have a political show? And if I had on the channel, I would put him on it. Is Tom Green.
I miss Tom Green. Tom Green was
great.
He had a 3-year run where he was the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Green.
I was just thinking about how funny he was. Like his interview, like he would interview people with the microphone, and it was.
Although karma got the best of him. Now people fuck with him all the time. All the pranksters on TikTok and everything, they love pranking Tom Green.
That's a good point. He's the grandfather of the pranksters.
Yeah, he started a lot of that, and now like there's like footage of him like losing his cool at comedy clubs because he's trying to be a straightforward stand-up comedian. And like the TikTok kids just keep fucking with him, you know, and it's like, yeah, dude, this is what it feels like, you know, and like I am not a prank. I occasionally do man on the street like stuff, and like people get uncomfortable because they see a guy with a camera and a microphone. They're like, oh shit. But it's like I really don't try to do mean-spirited comedy. I really don't try to do comedy where like I'm making people feel bad. But it's like, yeah, Tom Green, I think he might have a little bit of regret over those poop on the microphone interviews he was doing with people.
Yeah,
they are shoving that shit back into his face as he is a middle-aged man and he's not enjoying it.
Do you remember when he was on the talk show on MTV and he put his friend Glenn's phone number up in the window?
But he was also famously
that was great.
Famously kind to Monica Lewinsky at a time when like, and again, this is an interesting thing for me because it's like, you know, finding my comic voice as I grow older. You know, there was a lot of humor in the 90s where I was like, I just don't like this. Like something about this feels just too mean-spirited for me. And again, I liked Chris Farley. I was a big Simpsons fan. I was a big Conan O'Brien fan. Conan O'Brien is like my icon because he just has this wonderfully absurd. It is both absurd and like a little bit highbrow, so you get the references. And I loved that. And I remember thinking like all the Monica Lewinsky stuff growing up was like just really mean. And it's like I'm just supposed to call this woman fat and a slut and like all this like terrible stuff. And like yeah, Tom Green famously, like, it was funny because he just had her on. He just treated her like a regular person.
Yeah. You know what's wild about Tom Green too and the prankster thing is I was like, what kind of morons do what some celebrity idiot does? But then I remember Jackass was on when I was in college and we used to steal shopping carts and joust in the dorm. So media does have power.
Yeah. If you're a certain age, when Jackass came out, you were out there injuring yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, there were some good times.
100% me. I was like, and I think Jackass would actually be horrifying. Like, if you watch it, like, they are men who are just doing horrible, unspeakable things to each other. And I love Jackass. And I think the only reason why Jackass works is because they have so much love for what they're doing. Right. Like, they all have that shared love.
They sell the bit
madness.
Really
yes. And it's like, if they didn't look like they were having such a good time being fucking idiots, like, it would just be horrible, you know? But it's like, there's something clownish about it. It's like watching a real life Tom and Jerry cartoon or something.
Speaking of that, go ahead.
I was just going to say that and Borat were the greatest theater experiences of my life. The whole theater was just crying the entire time.
Yeah, Borat was great.
Oh, Sacha Baron Cohen is a genius. He's so good.
That word is thrown around a lot, but he's a fucking genius.
Yes.
You know what's always very weird to me is that when you would watch Jackass, it was the warning would come on and say, these are professionals.
Yeah.
Like, where did they train?
Yeah. I thought some of them were stuntmen.
Well, but I mean, like, they were like, these guys are trained professionals. Where do you get trained to walk into Home Depot and take a dump in the toilet, wearing a bow tie, and tell them you're?
Evo did go to clown college, so I guess he has a degree in.
Well, Bam, isn't Bam on the run now? He's got the cops on a
Bam's on the run. The other guy, Ryan Dunn's dead. It's all from Grace, the old Jackass crew. Do we want to do the other the stories? Do we want to get into Chris's?
We should probably get into Chris's show because like we still have another 3 or 4 stories if we do.
All right, listen, we'll save it for the weekend. We don't do a show on the weekend. All right, so Chris, you do what we aspire to do, which is bring something different to LinkedIn. And let me say, like, I know you had Alex Sheridan on the show at some point. His style of video is pervasive in LinkedIn. It's a little bit of that, like, I don't want to insult him. I'm sure he's doing very well, but everyone's doing that same thing, talking to a camera, words pop up, shitty emojis, and they're out. But you do sketch comedy on LinkedIn. Tell us about how you got here and what the idea is and where it's going.
Yeah, so I am just trying to be weird because, again, we talked about this thing about how authenticity, like being too over polished, like kind of it makes the audience not trust you. Yeah. All my stuff, if anybody at home has ever seen any of my sketch comedy, it looks like some lunatic made it in his living room because that's what it is, you know. I've been running my own business for about 2.5 years now. Prior to that, I was doing tech sales. I was doing education sales. I was doing a lot of sales. But I also wrote and directed sketch comedy shows at Chicago's Second City, you know, and that was really where I learned to hone my craft. I was doing improv for a long time. I was doing sketch comedy. I was doing stand-up comedy. I did some television work. I've done a lot of experimental theater. I've done like a lot of different types of comic performance. And a lot of my sketch comedy friends moved out to Los Angeles. They started a content brand. Like my friend and mentor, Keith, he went to BuzzFeed back when they were blowing up and kind of developing the science of how do you go viral. Yeah. And him and some of his colleagues started a brand there, got really big. They broke off, did their own thing. Now they're a multi-million-dollar content brand with millions and millions of followers on TikTok and YouTube. And I just kind of had this eureka moment where I realized I was good on video. I could do the video for sales thing. You know, I could make a 30-second video straight to a prospect, and I could set meetings really easily. And it's just not something they teach you to do. So I'm like, I'm going to start teaching people to do this. And I looked at LinkedIn content, and I said the same thing you did. I'm like, this all looks exactly the same. You know, this is all boring. If this is the best they can do, I think if I just go out there and be a little bit more fun than them, I can get a following, you know, and if people are scrolling through their feed and they just see a post where people are having more fun than they're having, people are going to be like, oh, I want in on this, you know, and I kind of fell backwards into comedy because I hadn't been doing it for 3 years. I had just not been doing shows. I was like going to get married and buy a house. Then I got divorced when COVID happened, and all of a sudden I was just like, didn't know what to do with myself. So I started making those talking head kind of videos.
Yeah.
And I would have these little moments where I'd be like talking about cold calling, and I would cut away to me on the phone, and it was like a more nervous version of me being like, and then like a much angrier version of me who was like just not having it. And I would like survey my audience when they would interact with the post, being like, what about this did you enjoy? And everybody was like, that moment where you cut away to that other character, could you do like more of that? Because we thought that was funny. And it didn't matter if it was a corporate executive, if it was an entrepreneur, if it was a random salesperson, if it was a creative person that I knew from earlier in my life, they all had the same note where they're like, that whatever you're doing there, I like that.
Right.
And the more I did that, the more I generated inbound business, the more I grew my audience. And then it just kind of became my thing. I kind of just found a way to like fuse the two sides of myself where I'm like, okay, I can go out there as the comic performer, create demand, you know, like collect buying signals from the people who I need to hire me. And then like, yeah, I can actually just go out there and do the sales thing, just pop on. Like, that's the thing people don't realize about me too, is like, I put a shit ton of absurdity and like just weird shit into my marketing content. My sales is very straightforward. I do not do quote unquote creative outreach. I just pop on the camera, and if like somebody fits my ideal customer profile and they're like enjoying my stuff, I'm just like, hey, Rodney, like, thanks for enjoying my stuff. Like, let me know if you want to have a chat about me coming in and helping your company get on video sometime. You know, like, respond with anything if you want to chat about that. And I don't have to send that many videos, you know, because this layer of fucking batshit comedy does a good job just disqualifying the people who aren't into it. Like, if you look at my stuff and you're like, this guy is like a lunatic and I would rather have much more conventional looking LinkedIn stuff, you're not going to start clicking the like button in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
if you unsubscribe, you're never going to buy anyway.
What's that?
I said, if you're going to unsubscribe, you're never going to buy anyway.
Right. Yeah, you want them to. You want people to.
Right.
And like, again, we go back to Trump. That was what Trump did really well. He just puts the most like obnoxious version of it out there. And if you don't like it, there's the door. But he goes and he plays for his people. And I was like, anyone can do that with their own people. You know, in my case, I'm like, okay, the people that I sell to tend to be just a little bit more creative. You know, they tend to be like the people I've got a saxophone in the shot behind me. Very often, the first thing people will say on a sales call with me is they'll be like, I play saxophone too. Yeah. You know, I'm a musician too. And it's like, I'm playing to that crowd. I'm playing to people who are just tired of like how like superficial LinkedIn is. And it like by sticking my neck out there a little bit and by being a little bit weirder than they expect, like the people who are like, oh, this is kind of refreshing. Like they've just revealed themselves to me.
Right.
And that's who I go after. That's who I'm building the audience around that. You know, I'm building my following because I find the people who are enjoying my stuff that are, you know, second connects or whatever. And I'm just like growing my audience that way. And yeah, I don't see a lot of other people on LinkedIn doing this. So I'm just like, well, more great.
No, which is weird too, because it's a business environment. You would think that they would know that like interesting things stands out, but instead they do what everybody else does, because I think it's for a litany of reasons. One is that people aren't that interesting or creative or unique. But so, which brings me to my next question. People like you, they like what you do, they want to be on camera the way you are. Do you advise them to do funny shit? Like how, because a lot of people just can't do it. Like a lot of people haven't worked with City.
If they're funny, I always say like, if somebody's funny and they're like, hey, I want to go do funny comedy, like, hell yeah, I've done that. I've got creators who are doing very well for themselves because I help them find their comic voice, or I help them develop like a recurring comedic show, you know, and I've got some wins with that. But if somebody is not funny, if somebody is, say, a good teacher, I tell them, go on camera and teach. Right. You know, you don't have to do that just by talking straight to the camera the whole time. A lot of what I do is like the first 3 seconds of the video is so important. Yeah. And that's what creators miss, is like maybe the content is really good, but there's nothing in that first 3 seconds to pull you in. Right. And, you know, there's a lot of different creative ways to do that, even if you're not funny. You know, I throw people into the middle of the problem. And like that's often why my comedy works, is because I'm throwing a character into like a really doomed situation where there's no good options. And that's the start of the video. But like, there's a lot of clever ways you can do that. And like, I've got a lot of examples of people who I've coached that are not funny. There's a woman who like, she was doing HubSpot agency work for 7 years. I had to help her develop a show, and she's bilingual. And she's like, you know what? I have never seen like good HubSpot content in Spanish, So it's like, that's the show. She's got a YouTube show where she goes and she gives HubSpot like advice in Spanish. And like, that is bringing them deals into the pipeline, because like there are Spanish speaking companies who are like, oh, I like this woman. She has good things to say. And like, no one else is doing it like this. So like, yeah, why don't we check them out? And
it's smart.
I call what I do soliloquy. I say it's the age-old art of soliloquy. Anybody at home who doesn't remember freshman year English class, that's a Shakespearean term for when the character breaks the fourth wall and looks straight at the audience. Shakespeare did it, but so did Parks and Rec, so did Ferris Bueller, so did The Office, so did iCarly. There's all these examples throughout entertainment history where if you break the fourth wall and talk straight to the audience and say what's actually going on, like Iago in Othello would just be like, hey, everybody, like, watch me fuck these people up. And then just go back. And like, people love it, and I'm like, anybody could do that. My soliloquy was comedy. I was on the stage. That was me in my purest form, connecting with the audience in the way that's natural to me. But I'm like, maybe your soliloquy happens at church. Maybe that's where you become that. Maybe you're a coach. Maybe you're coaching your son's little league team, and that part of you that can like get people like amped up and ready to go. Maybe that's your soliloquy. Maybe that's the version of you that's most compelling on video. Like, the goal is not to turn people into me. It's like, what's the version of you that like can be engaging and that people like to be around? And how can you show up on camera as that and not something else? Like not that, instead of like this quote unquote professional version of you that you think you're supposed to be, or that you think the audience wants you to be. You're actually most compelling. Like, people tell me I'm not funny. I'm only funny when I'm around my friends and family. I go, no, that's just the version of you that's funny. We're going to get that version of you on camera, because that's actually just a relaxed version of you that's running on your intuition. And this other version of you is this type that you're trying to perform in a way that you think the audience wants. But like, we're going to get that natural version of you on camera.
Makes a lot of sense. And you're on TikTok too, right?
Yeah, I'm Chris Sells His Soul.
Are you getting B2B business out of TikTok engagement, or is it mostly?
Admittedly, I have eased up on TikTok because I was just not getting the same kind of sales momentum as I was on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn seems like the place too. So this is my thing too. Like, if you're trying to be the most entertaining thing on LinkedIn, it's not as if you're a guitarist and you're trying to compete with Robert Plant. Like, if you're the most entertaining thing on LinkedIn, you're the most fuckable Trump supporter. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very low bar. So I think most, like, when people advise B2B companies to be on TikTok, I'm just like, there's too much. There's chicks in bikinis dancing around. Why are you competing with that?
Well, this goes to something I tell people all the time, where I'm like, look, the reason why LinkedIn is great, and the reason why I unironically love LinkedIn, is because it's the only social platform where there's no children. Like, for real, on TikTok, you have to compete with teenagers. They are doing their prank videos. They are twerking. I can't compete with twerking videos, but I don't have to compete with twerking videos on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you have an audience that has, like, they're all adults, which means you can use adult humor. You can go for highbrow jokes. People are like, they're kind of stupefied by my comedy, because they're like, I didn't know you could say shit like this on LinkedIn. And I'm like, was the LinkedIn police gonna like arrest you or something? Like, these are all adults. These are adults. Like, LinkedIn has, like, their users have a higher level of education than other platforms do, and they have a higher amount of income. So it's like, people on LinkedIn, either they have jobs or that pay well and they can hire me, or they don't have a job that pays well and they're distracting themselves. I'm like, those are two good audiences for me. And yeah, it's like, I can't compete with a lot of the shit on TikTok with my absurd business advice, and like, I don't have to.
Maybe the secret is twerking while giving the advice.
Well,
I mean, if you could do it, like
Robin,
hats off to you.
start twerking.
Robin, take your shawl off. Showtime.
Fuck, if somebody hired me and they're like, I'm amazing at twerking, I'd be like, this is gonna be easy.
I've seen Robin shirtless on Instagram. We gotta get you dancing, boy. There's no kids on.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good observation.
No children on LinkedIn. We are all adults here, and that's why
Kid
actually
free.
in this past year, my brand has like with my show and stuff, I've been kind of subtly turning it into more of kind of a late night feel. You know, and it's like my episodes always have different names. Like one of them was, you know, LinkedIn After Dark. One of them was Dark Social. I do a lot of stuff where I'm like, oh no, actually, this is all adults here. Like as a little kid, there's a lot of little kids. It's funny. I can't believe I'm admitting this on LinkedIn. But as a kid, I was a fan of Playboy magazine because I would steal it from my uncle. And it was funny because I actually would read the articles because I stole them and I would have to return because you're a little kid, you don't know what to do with it. You're like, oh, naked women, that's cool. Oh, I guess I'll read. It was like the 1990s and they were old magazines. I'm like, I guess I'll read Gore Vidal's essay on the Gulf War.
I knew what to do with the Playboys, but it only took 30 seconds. So what am I going to do with the rest of my time?
But you know that was the thing though. It was entertainment for adults. It was like, hey, we're going to tell adult jokes here. We're also going to have like Ray Bradbury and like you know famous authors come in to like actually write like serious articles too. And like you know I don't have the naked women, but I'm trying to kind of get that vibe of like, oh no, you know what? This is a little more adult. It's a little bit edgier, but also there's this layer of sophistication that we can talk at because
like
we don't have to worry about the kids.
LinkedIn dating, yes.
Have you heard of LinkedIn dating?
Is that a thing?
It is a thing.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. I'll send you the brilliant video we did.
Oh man, that's actually one of the things about my brand. Though the reason why it works is because there's no sex at all. I am that is the agreement. As a content creator, it's like I am out here on LinkedIn doing fun LinkedIn stuff. The second I start like trying to date the women who enjoy my show, it's all over. You know, like that's the agreement is like I am here, I am doing fun stuff. I will help you do video in a way that's good for your business. And I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm not here to hit on you. I'm not here to do anything but just like have fun video-based business comedy.
You know why this is great is because we're both doing the same thing, but we're doing the opposite. The three of us are in it for the groupies and the drugs.
Yeah. people.
Robin wants to get a fake ID.
No, people. If people do hit on me, I'm just like, thanks. Subscribe to my podcast. I could really use it.
You were a stronger man than I.
You mean you don't get a lot of in-mail asking if you want to, if you want this or that? I have probably 300 people in my LinkedIn.
Well, we're toying around with Rodney Goes Wild as our late night show.
Oh God, I don't even want to.
Yo, you want to see it? America demands it.
The shawl comes off after 10. Robin's shawl comes off.
I like the idea that you want to do the late night thing. We were thinking more Morning Zoo. We want to be like Stern in 1986.
No, that's great. I mean, again, I'm all for people just like pushing the boundaries and figuring out like different ways to play with the format, you know. And it's like people complain a lot about how everything on LinkedIn is the same, but that doesn't mean they're going out there trying something different.
Well, that's the thing is like, you know, the Sheridan style videos, and I don't know if he invented them, but everyone's doing that. Like, there's no rules. You said in one of the videos, you were like, there's no rules. So why are we following these weird fucking rules? You're allowed to do whatever you want to do, but everyone does the same thing. And it's bizarre.
Yeah, because people just like, and this goes back to kind of the political thing too, where it's like people just want to be right. People just they want to feel like they're correct, and you know, formats really help you do that. Like Justin Welsh is a perfect example. Justin Welsh, his course, The Operating System. If you've ever taken it, which I have, I bought it and I learned some good things from it. But once you take it, you realize, oh, this is why LinkedIn looks the way it does, because half of LinkedIn is just copying his copywriting style.
Exactly. Which is terrible, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not unique. It's not original. Here's the other thing. No one ever gets fired for being logical. So if you like do something, you're like, well, this made sense because you're like, oh, okay, you're fine. It's the things that are outside the boundaries that get people fired. So they're afraid to do them. So if you buy a course and it says this works, you go, well, this is what we're going to do because it works. But eventually when everyone does it, it stops working. That's not how marketing works.
Yeah. And again, I kind of created a niche for myself, and I had to prove that my style worked. And you know, people don't, even the video companies don't rely on videos. Hey, thanks, Bob. For sales. They're still cold calling at the video companies, you know? So I had a coach early on that told me like, hey, if you want to pitch companies on this different way of doing things, you have to drink your own Kool-Aid. You have to go out there and show them. And part of what, and like every time I think I've gone too far, every time I'm like, this idea is too ridiculous, it blows up and it does like really, it overperforms my other stuff. So part of what I'm doing is like, I am stepping off the ledge first. I am walking off the cliff, and the audience is watching in real time. Like I step off the cliff and the ledge appears underneath me and I land, and I show them like, oh no, actually look, if you create kind of an interesting live moment where like people don't know what's going to happen, that's just like interesting. And like my show, my first sketch comedy show in Chicago was called A Hair Away from Disaster. And that's how my stuff, I try to make stuff that feels that way, where like it feels like it could fall apart at any moment, but there's some sort of weird internal logic that actually kind of makes sense. And I think LinkedIn is a playground, and I just can't believe more people aren't taking advantage of it.
That's because they're all dorks. Are you still doing improv?
You know, I haven't done a live show in a few years. I've been doing pretty much everything online, but I would like to. I would like people don't they see me doing like the 1 and 2 minute comedy on LinkedIn, and they don't realize that like I used to write 90-minute shows, and I was not in them. I was the writer, I was the director, but I was writing for a cast of actors and a band, you know, and like that's the other thing that's kind of tricky needle I'm trying to thread, where like I have to go do comedy because I can't just tell people that I used to do comedy. They have to see it to understand like what it is that I'm able to do. But I really do think my skill is being able to look at a group of people and be like, okay, this is a no nonsense character. You know, this guy who's a little stiff, he's the soldier, you know, and this woman, she's got something kind of warm about her, you know, so she's going to be the grandmother. And like, I do this on LinkedIn too, where again, it's like, if I see a clown, I'm like, welcome to clown school, buddy. We're going to do some funny shit.
So let me ask you a question. I have a question. Yeah. Let's say somebody doesn't do video, right? And they're on LinkedIn, which everyone is, and they're somehow have found themselves watching our show. What would you say is the easiest way to get started in video?
You just talk to the camera about what you know. Like that's how I started, you know. The easiest thing you could do is look straight into the lens and not look away from it. Like most newbie creators, they're looking at their own image on the screen, so they get these little nervous eye movements happening. I'm like, talk straight into the camera and make it shorter than a minute. You know, you start from there, and pretty much everybody, and like this is actually, so when I teach like video cohorts, so if I'm teaching a group of people over the course of 8 weeks, we don't do any video the first week. The first week we talk about their audience. And it's like, who is the audience that you want to have? And I'll ask professional marketers this. I'll be like, okay, you control the algorithm. You push a button and your message is going to go directly to the person you want it to go to. Who are you going to send it to? Who is this content for? And they don't know. And I'm like, okay, we need to figure that out before you ever make a video. You know, is this for the sales reps? Is this for their bosses? Who is this for? And then the first assignment is always the same thing. I'm like, you are going to go ask your audience one question and report back. Like most features, LinkedIn, Twitter, all these platforms have polling features usually. So I'm like, you are going to go ask your audience one question that you do not know the answer to. Try to find something where there's a genuine disagreement, or maybe something where you have like a counterintuitive point of view. Go pull your audience on that question and report back to the cohort next week. And we come back next week, and then we plan the first piece of content, because we've collected information from our audience. We know that they have a stake in this. We know that they have a point of view about this topic that we have a point of view about. And now you're going to put something out there, you know, and you can do that kind of that hook where it's like, look, everybody says you're supposed to do X. Here's why I do Y. You know, I disagree with my network. 70% of my network says this is the right thing. Here's why this other thing is the right thing, you know, and you just start putting stuff out there. And I'm like, you are, if you are going where your audience is, if you're covering the topics that they care about, you're going to be relevant. The fact that they engage with the poll means the algorithm is more likely to deliver your content to them if you put a similar piece of content out. And you're going to disagree with your audience. You know, you're going to put something out there that you think is so brilliant because you worked so hard on it, and it's going to bomb. And that thing you know rushed out in 5 minutes because you're behind, you just need to put something out. That's the thing that's going to blow up.
Right.
And it doesn't matter because the audience doesn't care how much work you put into it.
So how often should you post? I'm just taking some notes here. How often do you think you should post?
Depends on what you can do. You know, it's like when I started off, I think I was doing like 2 or 3 videos a week.
Okay.
You know, when I bumped it up to 4, I'm like, okay, now I'm putting videos out there more often than I'm not putting out videos. I am actually a quality over quantity kind of guy. So I actually like, some people say just get stuff out every day. But some of those videos that took me like an extra day or 2 to make are the ones that get me inbound business. So to me, I think it's important that you just set a number, whatever it is, and you stick to it. Even if that's 1 a week, you're putting stuff out there. And it's like when one overperforms, you have to get curious about why. And maybe it's the topic, maybe it's your point of view, maybe it's the style of video or the format of the video. That's when you go, whenever we do this, whenever we cover this topic, whenever I come in from this angle, my audience likes it better than the rest of my stuff. So why don't we do more of that? Let's give them more. Let's give them more of this point of view. Let's give them more of this feeling. Let's explore this topic from a different angle. And like, that's when you start really kind of getting it down. But it's like, you kind of just got to go force yourself to start doing stuff. And that's why nobody does it. And that's why I have a job. Like, that's why I'm able, because like, there's a lot of creative people who want to start doing shit and they just don't know how to get started.
I think that's probably the issue is a lot of people don't know how to get started. Yeah.
Have you ever gone back in time and just like looked at some of your old videos and
Yeah, I repurpose my videos all the time. One of the assignments I do with the cohort too is take a video that didn't do well, take a video that underperformed, and remake it. And oftentimes, this happened with my sketch this week. I had a sketch that I thought was funny, but I didn't let the audience in on the game fast enough. And I look at that, and a video like that, like, because I use Shield to monitor my analytics. It's a program called Shield. So it's like they show you your likes, your comments, like number of likes, number of comments, number of views, number of shares, and your engagement percentage. And like they show you if you overperformed on something, right? If you got more likes than usual, more shares than usual. So it's like if I overperform on all 5 levels, I'm like, this is good. I can repurpose this. I can use it again later. I need to make more content like this. If I look at something and I'm like, you know what? This got a very low number of views, but it got a lot of comments. I take that to mean this was a good idea that people were invested in, but I didn't make it attention grabbing enough in the first 3 seconds to like attract a wide enough audience. So why don't I try the same idea again, but I'm going to do something that smacks you in the face right in the beginning and pulls you into the story, or the opposite. Maybe I got something and it just blew up. Tons of people saw it. Tons of people clicked the like button, but nobody commented. I'm like, this same idea needs a more interactive element. I'm going to try this again, but I'm going to have something where it like entices the audience to comment or to weigh in with their opinion. And like, yeah, I'm always retooling it. And I have examples that I use. And I'm thinking of even just making some content of like, here's version 1 of this. And then here's version 2, and here's why version 2 did 10 times better, because like it was just missing one of these little elements that you need to get it in front of people.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more thing? Because we're coming up on the hour. So we, you did a post asking people, you said no one's using LinkedIn Live correctly. And then you asked for examples of people that are. And
we got you.
And we led. So do you think the idea of doing a daily show from 10 to 11 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, is a good use of LinkedIn Live?
Yeah, it's consistency is what it's all about. You want, like, I was always taught for radio, like if like and this is an NPR thing, is like the way to have a good radio show is to make it the same thing every episode. You know, you can't mess with the format too much. Every time the audience tunes in, they should have to know what to expect. Yeah. And that's why my show, like I do a lot of unexpected stuff, but it always follows the same format. It's the same opening line. It's a theme song. There's one guest. There's 2 segments with a break in the middle. And it's like, you know, when you have that, you can tinker with the little bits and improve things and work on the little thing. If you're just wildly changing the format, wildly changing what time you're going out there, it's really hard to figure out what's working and what's not working. So yeah, hell yeah, guys, just keep going.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like we should send you a check for a seminar. That was very good.
I got to tell you, you have really given us a lot of knowledge. Most people, a lot of people come on the show and they just don't drop knowledge.
Yeah, well.
Yeah,
Hey, can I plug my shit? Well,
absolutely,
please. For as long,
yeah. So if anybody is interested in selling on video, I have a digital course available. You can get it at chrisbogue.io, or you can go on my LinkedIn page. There's a QR code in my banner there. You can scan to get to the page, but it's the complete guide to selling on video. Again, it's a digital course, so it is a video-based course. It's 2.5 hours of original content. I go deep into the process of making video for sales, from on-camera performance to list building to LinkedIn audience growth to outbound and thumbnails and subtitles, and it ends with how to send it out on LinkedIn and Gmail. So if you want to get started doing short video for sales, nobody is doing it. It works way better than cold calling. So check that out. And then if anybody is interested in hiring me, I do coaching. I do like a one-off 90-minute session. I also do like consulting and training on like bigger scale packages. So anybody out there wants to get your sales team or your marketing team out there doing short, fun, intelligent content, shoot me a DM. Or again, go to chrisbogue.io, and you can also find my show, Chris Bogue, or Chris Sells His Soul, wherever you get podcasts. So if you Spotify, Apple, whatever, check out Chris Sells His Soul. It is conversations with cool people about how to monetize your creativity.
You got that down. And might I say,
I love the domain.
Your commercial for the Chris Bogue method there, the fake commercial, fucking hilarious. Great job.
So yeah, I do. If anybody wants to connect with me in the audience, I'll connect with you. And yeah, I do a lot of infomercials. Yeah. I do a lot of I've just found that it's that idea of when you have the game, you can really say anything. And I've got a character named Dr. Funkenstein, and it's just me in a fucking lab coat, and it's the words flashing on the screen, not a doctor. Yeah. And I'm just I'm just gonna state that I'm not a doctor, and I'm gonna go put on a fucking fake doctor jacket and talk like I'm a doctor. Mm-hmm. And you can really say anything. And again, I fuck with a lot of the conventions on LinkedIn because it's funny, and no one's stopping me, so I'm just gonna keep doing it.
And there's two big takeaways: there's no rules, and there's no kids. So
no children on LinkedIn.
No rules, just right.
All right.
Don't ever forget that. That's the most important thing I said.
That's the big takeaway. All right, America. See you Monday.
Yeah, happy indictment day,
guys.
Happy indictment day. Goodbye. Later.